9:36 the time. Wake up, Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So I've gone through all the mayhem that I have anyway that happened in Gillette, Wyoming at the city council meeting last night. But why not talk to somebody who's actually from Gillette so we can get some clarification on what's going on? Always good to hear from Wyoming State Representative Scott Clem. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Glenn. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you calling in to clarify some things. So what do you think is going on?
Yeah, so I was there last night at their city council meeting, and yeah, I mean, you can see the video online. It's quite remarkable. It turned into total mayhem. And, there's a couple, you had a pretty good recap of all of that. There's just a couple things that were different. I wanted to clarify that while the council chambers was cleared, and then they did resume the city business afterward, everybody was allowed back in the city council chambers.
Okay, so they just had to go out and cool down and come back?
That's essentially what it was, because the judge became unhinged, and then you could tell that it was the situation was just escalating. I think the police made the right call. The mayor, you had mentioned there, the mayor at one point did try to shout for order, but the mayor and the council, they ended up leaving the council chambers before anybody else. In fact, and it was some time before order was actually brought to the situation. The shouting was going back and forth. I believe it was the city administrator who had called for a clearing of the council chambers, and I think it was that time that the mayor and council had left. It's hindsight's always 20/20, right? And we got there. There was a very big crowd that was there to address the council and mayor over what had happened a few weeks ago. They put in some new rules, some decorum things as far as speaking to the council. No name calling. You had a 2-minute limit, all this kind of stuff, and it was unfortunate because anybody who's ever chaired a meeting knows that the chairman is the one who's in control of the meeting. It could have been stopped right from the get-go. Right. The judge took off his robe, he resigned his position, he immediately turned to the crowd, was facing the crowd, began to name call and berate the crowd, and the chairman, which was the mayor, let it all happen.
And then he also went way beyond his 2 minutes. So, yeah, he broke every single rule. But you tell me, because here's just my personal opinion, that the judge was right to immediately resign, because then what he did is turn to the audience, and he was just a jerk. He really was. I mean, he was talking down to people, as you said. He was insulting people. Of course, the audience turned on him. He immediately called them a bunch of liars and cowards, and then he got ugly. So, of course, they turned on him.
It turned ugly when he began to berate the crowd and say, "What have you done to earn your right to speak?" In which someone aptly stood up, don't know who it was, but they stood up and said, "My ancestors died for that right," which he was completely on point. We have the First Amendment for a reason, to address our legislative bodies or our governing bodies for a redress of grievances. And it's unfortunate that some of those in our, you could call them our ruling class, want to take that away. It really kind of showed the divide. Yeah. It was very apparent last
Well, let me ask you just your opinion on this, though, because I know there are people who keep asking me from all over the state. So you think they're going to be able to get rid of the city council? And when I look at the momentum, Scott, I think they're probably going to have to do it at the ballot box. But what do you think?
That's where it's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
This mayor and council, they're staying silent. They're which is really an admission of guilt. Their silence speaks volumes, but they're not going anywhere, and they feel justified in pushing out this other councilman over Facebook likes, and so that's where things sit. So yeah, if there's going to anything that happens, it has to be done at the ballot box. I will say this, and I'm disappointed at the state level. I asked the Attorney General and the Governor to investigate this issue. In particular, there was violations of state law that took place with this mayor and council. They violated the open meetings law, the executive sessions, and all of those kind of things. Actions were taken in the executive session that were unlawful to be taken. And I requested that the Attorney General investigate this for the simple fact that I didn't want to see my community being torn apart. I cautioned and requested to the mayor and governor and said, hey, please do this so that it doesn't escalate further. And that's exactly what we saw last night. And so I'm calling on him again. We need an investigation into this mayor and council to see if indeed it's pretty apparent that they broke crimes and justice needs to be served. That's why the crowd was there last night. That's why people are upset, because they see our ruling class getting away with violations of the law. And that is not right in our system of government, and people won't stand for it. So It needs to be investigated.
As this continues to, and is this going to get worse before it gets better, Scott? I appreciate you calling in with insight since you were there, and I hope you call back again and give us more insight, because I hate to cover this from afar, so I'm glad you're there. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Mm-hmm.
9:42. Wake Up Wyoming.